Hello, and welcome to the November interview for the Cozy Mystery Book Club. I am Kate Tilton. I am the administrator assistant for the book club, and today I'm joined by Jolie Tunnell. Jolie is an award-winning and Amazon best-selling author, freelance writer, blogger, and book doula with a background in administration and education. Her fiction brings the past to life with stencil historical mysteries. She lives in Southern California with her husband, five kids, and a pear-shaped cat. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right, so for the first question I have is for readers who don't yet know you, what can they expect from your books?
Ah, perfect. Well, you can expect a good mystery. We'll start there. I read a lot of them, so I know what I expect when I pick up a book. Um, I've got a complete series. So the first thing you want to know is all 10 of them are done. There's two prequels also. And if you get involved, you can finish clear to the end without waiting for the author to come out with the next book in the series.
I love that. So it's like binge reading.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. And each one of the books is a standalone, complete mystery of itself. I do have surprise twists at the end of my mysteries, but I do not end with a cliffhanger. That's also one of my pet peeves.
Yep.
And they pick up speed as you go along. I think that's important to know too. The action gets pretty fast, and they're fun, fast reads. So that's something to know. They are cozy, so you're not going to have intimate scenes or swearing and violence. That's not where we're going with these. Suspense, yes. Peril, of course. Um, but at the end of the day, they're just good mysteries. But because I write historical mystery, you're also going to expect history in there. And this is something woven into the setting, actually. You're going to get a great idea of what it was like in 1912, but also what it was like to be in a tiny little town in the middle of nowhere in 1912. It's like the town that time forgot.
Okay.
So in this series, I have, yes, automobiles because they're invented, but the stagecoach is what they're using. They're all riding horses because it's inaccessible uh, for an auto. It still is, actually. So you're going to have outhouses, but telephones. You're going to have partying tourists from LA who show up to stay at the hotel. And then you're going to have the cowboys and the rangers who've been up there for decades already. So the turn of the century is just arriving in Idlewild. It's 1912. The locals have very mixed feelings about that. So you're going to have the old timers who are like, no change.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have the ambitious people who embrace it and they just want to bring everything modern up to the town. Any rate, so there's going to be that, a little bit of grit because we're historical. Don't expect cupcake recipes or psychic cats or anything like that. We've got realistic settings and fairly ordinary characters for the time and place who land in very extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah. And you mentioned that this is 10 books. So does it happen over many years or is it all kind of pretty close?
Nope. So what I did is I pulled a Nancy Drew.
Okay.
It's always the summer of 1912. However, our community does progress. So, we get into relationships with these people. You get to know your characters really well, and you have your favorites and you have your not so favorites.
Yeah.
But when you're 1912, the problem with progressing is you're putting everybody right up against World War I. That's 2 years away. That has
Yeah.
not happened yet. We're still fighting for the votes for women. There's a lot going on, but we're not there yet. And I didn't want to impact my series with that. So when you're writing historical anything, that's something to consider.
Yeah, it changes the whole type of book, I think it would be.
It really would have impacted the series, and we want to stay where we are and have a good time. So
Well, it kind of goes into my next question where I'm talking about do real events happen, like end up in your books? And if you have any examples of that, and I guess that's an example of a real life event that isn't in your book.
Right, right. No, exactly. So I personally am not going to um, stumble over dead bodies in the course of my day or go down an old abandoned gold mine or things that happen in my book didn't come from my own personal experience. However, my great great grandparents, some of their lives ended up in my series. I've got pioneers, cowboys, mountain men in my family tree. So
That's
I pull a lot from that for my characters. Um, and I actually have at the end of all of my books, I put a little section at the end when you finish each book, and it's called History, Mystery, or Poppycock. And I tell you what came from research, and what is fiction, and you would be very surprised what my research turned up.
I
You can't
love it.
tell.
I feel like in real life, there are a lot of things that happen. Like I was at a book event. We were having the huge like buffet event of the whole conference, and it's in Florida, and it downpoured. Like it was sunny, bright, and then suddenly just buckets and buckets of rain. And people
Yeah.
are huddled together under these umbrellas that are not really meant for this kind of rain. And I'm like, this is absolutely a situation someone would put in a book, and a reader would say, this doesn't happen in real life. And I'm like, but it did. So it's pretty amazing what can happen in real life that people just don't realize. So I love that you include that in your books.
Well, Idlewild's real. It's a real place, and I've been up there just most of my life. So I, when you read the books, you're there. The setting is very visceral, and the weather, the patterns, everything like that is obviously firsthand experience. But we take that. The Idlewild Inn is still there. It's been there since 1904. So by the time you go into book one of my series, that's already a happening place. They've already got their own history, when we show up. So that was really fun. I have a lot of their real history in the books. So Walter Lindley, who has the Idlewild Inn, is a real man, and I portray him pretty true to life. Mr. and Mrs. Hannis, they really did operate a lumber mill up there. They started the first post office, the Keene family. So you're going to meet a lot of these people, and you're going to spend some time in Idlewild. And what I want you to do when you're done is to plan a trip
And go
and
visit.
touch it for yourself, because not much has changed.
Crazy because I actually did look at possibly visiting there once. Unfortunately, the trip didn't pan out, but it was interesting to see like how many things there were to do, even though it's a small town. I also grew up in a very, very small town. We had a library that was the size of a room and was basically never open. The church has been there forever, right across a covered bridge, which was like a national landmark.
Yeah.
Uh, that's also interesting to see. Like my mailbox was on that bridge, and they actually rebuilt a lot of it over time. And like visiting now and being like, wow, this is so different, even though it's still the bridge. It
Yeah.
looks so different from when I was a child. Are there things in your book that, you know, were there during the time of your books, but now are no longer existing?
Well, obviously after, it's 112 years, I had to math that out. So most of the buildings have been redone, um, but all of the research is there. You can see what it was, how it started out. Um, when you go up there, and this is honestly the best part of Idlewild, they were so small and unable to commercialize. So these are the California mountains we're discussing right now, the San Jacinto mountain range. And if you know the area and you think of a place like Big Bear, a lot of people know where Big Bear is. It's sort of this small mountain community, but they were able to commercialize it.
Mhm.
Now you've got ski resorts and you've got the big hotels. Idlewild could never pull that off. They're as tiny now as they were 112 years. They don't get enough snow. They don't get enough, all the reasons to go big never happen. So you could go up there and that vibe, that atmosphere is
It's the
absolutely
same.
still there. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder because it's striking me just how similar this is to where I grew up. I grew
Mhm.
up Stark, New Hampshire, which is a village population size. It's about 500 people.
Wow.
Uh, and I think a lot of that too, like there is a bed and breakfast that you can go to. We do have the Stark Covered Bridge, which, like I said, is a national landmark, but it's not really a huge tourist part. Like people will come through, peep the leaves during the fall season. We have the Appalachian Trail, but it's not something where you have like giant ski resorts and stuff. Like you have to kind of travel outside of Stark for that. And part of it, I think, is the people. Like they don't want to be a big tourist town with a bunch of people. They are very happy to be left alone.
Exactly. No, exactly. So they have author events up there as well once a year. So I was up there 3 weeks ago. I stayed at the Idlewild Inn. Very exciting. But the people all know me up there. The locals know that, that I sort of put this on the map for them. And the little historical society is up there. They've got a little log cabin you can go in. Highly recommend it. Don't miss it. Go in there, poke around. But they uh, they love that I was able to portray how they all feel about that now, then.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
some things just don't change. Like half of the town is like, bring the tourists in, we need the dollars. And half of them are like, you know what? It's beautiful and quiet. And
Yes.
and we can be alone out here with the forest and just don't wreck it.
Yeah, untouched, or I should say untouched, but less touched, right? Nature that you can enjoy. It's just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Back to the books and the writing, what was the hardest scene for you to write in the series?
Oh boy, that happened right in book one, guys. So I had to question my entire author career. Um, Killing somebody. My first murder.
Like a character that we know, or the actual like who got
I
off?
had Well, I have news for you. When you write murder mysteries, somebody somewhere has to actually die to create that mystery. I actually paced around the house for 3 days because I had fallen in love with the character.
Oh no.
And I was like, what am I doing? This is, you know, and sure, I had all my options, but I knew it had to happen. And I
Yeah.
laughed at myself so much. It's like, it's a little better now. I
Okay.
try to keep some emotional distance.
I was gonna say, like, I guess it depends on how much you know about the character. I think in some mystery books, we don't really know a lot about the character. It's, we're following our main character, they stumble across it, and you find like connections and things, but you're not like attached because you're like, I don't know this person. It's, it's
Right, right. Or else the dead guy, yeah, the dead guy had it coming. That's helpful. If everybody in the book doesn't like him, then maybe he had it coming.
yeah, a little less
It doesn't
sad.
always work like that. So
Well, I'm glad it is now at least a little bit easier considering that you are still writing these
I
uh, murder
yeah,
mysteries.
I
Uh,
just work around it.
yeah, you
Yeah.
get a little less detached. So this question is more just about you. If you could have dinner with any cozy mystery author, whether they're alive or dead, who would you pick?
See, I have a lot of favorites. Um, okay, so the list well, we're gonna have a list. We're not gonna pick one.
Yeah, maybe the top five.
Some of my authors, like Arthur Conan Doyle, Agatha Christie, right? The
Yeah,
obvious, Elizabeth Peters, well, that's her pen name, but that that would be a fun lunch date. But how about like Janet Ivanovich
mm,
or Katrina McPherson, somebody who puts a lot of fun into their murder mysteries? Um, That would be fun. I've read all their books. And you know what? I'm going to just put a nod out there since I can to Tasha Alexander. Um, because when she takes you somewhere, it's history, when she takes you to another place, you're really there. And I
yeah,
love the immersive feel in a
experience.
book. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned like humor in stories. Have you ever read Deborah Kuntz?
No, but I'm writing it down right now.
Yes. The first book is called Wanna Get Lucky. It's
Love
a little
it.
bit interesting in that it's not completely cozy. It's set in Vegas, and like the Strip, Vegas. But your main character, Lucky O'Toole, is like the fix-it person at one of the resorts. And very interesting family and things that happen, but it's mystery with a lot of humor. Uh,
Yeah.
that's kind of a fun place because it's like cozy mystery can have a lot of humor in it, but you can also have a humorous mystery that's not cozy.
Right, right. There's so many ways to take this, and I read them all. I love the different ways that the authors go about putting those stories together, you know?
Yeah, because even in our book club, we have our, contemporary cozy mysteries. We have historical cozy mysteries like you're writing. We also have some paranormal cozy. And they're all very different and they all like appeal to different readers. Some readers love all of them, some like certain ones and they don't like others.
Yeah.
Um, Personally, that's what I like about books is there's so many options out there. Um, and I mean, I just love the good cozy mystery, but I do love humor. I think it's so fun. Like I just read Knifed in Nice by Zara Keen.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, that first starting is basically like, I did not expect to shoot this like mob boss in the dairy area, but here I am.
Oh,
And I have to like figure out why the heck he was there to begin with.
yes.
Uh, it's a great
Oh,
premise for a good, fun story.
yeah,
So
they're fun. No, I mean, my books have some humor. There's some romance. There's some heartbreak. There's all the human emotions are going to be in there, but I keep it tight to the mystery and then the characters who are there for the whole series. You know,
yeah,
their relationships change and grow and backstory comes out. But they're having a good time and they love what they're doing. You know, it's not as funny as Janet Ivanovich is going to be, of course.
that's good because some people though that's not what they're looking for. I really like Murdoch mysteries. And a lot of the joy from that comes from following the same characters and seeing how they grow as people, but also how their relationships,
Right.
right? That's
Right.
also historical and just like the turn of the century. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show, read the books, um, but Murdoch brings a lot of science into police work, which was
Mhm.
not a huge thing back in the time. So a lot of times people are looking at him like, you're crazy. And he's like, but it makes sense. And then
Right.
you have, the constable Crabtree, who is way more of a creative person. And he
Yeah.
brings in some of those like what seems like very crazy ideas. Um, but they're things that are good and well today. But he was considered like, he just has a vivid imagination. And contrast is nice there with the characters. So speaking of other hobbies like watching TV, do you have any other creative hobbies or other like fun hobbies you'd like to share?
Oh, well, I like to garden. I like to go hiking. Obviously, I read a ton. Um, I have a first grandchild on the way, so that's going to probably be my next hobby.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And one fun fact about me, I can organize the heck out of anything.
Yes.
I I don't know if that's more a hobby or if I'm a little more OCD about it, but it's what I do in my free time.
I do it for stress relief. I always tell my friends if you want to organize your pantry, your closet, like just call me.
I will alphabetize your spices, not a problem.
Yep, 100%.
Make it look good.
So that makes me curious. How do you organize your books? Do you do it by genre, author last name, format?
You're talking about my bookshelf.
Yeah, or are you just like an ebook reader or
You
audiobook?
No, I love my bookshelves and I can not keep them in, I'll rearrange them regularly. So there
Okay.
is not one answer. Sometimes I'll be like, because I'm cleaning them, right? So I'll go through them by size, or now they're by color, or now they're by, yeah, but I do organize them.
I like a hobby. I organize my books in different ways. I love it.
Because
I love seeing the
I
color
love them.
shelves. They're beautiful. I'm very particular where I have like my paperbacks go together, hardcovers go together, and then it's all by author last name because I'm like, I have over 1,000 books downstairs. So I'm like, I need to have this organized by author last name so I can find the books that I want to read.
Oh no. I always have some vague idea. I know where my favorites are in the pile, like wherever it is. Again, I always like I track those.
Yeah.
Most of them don't leave the house.
An author I know, she did the color coordinating for her bookshelves, but she was like, I'm able to do this because I've already read the books. So
Right.
I'm not like searching for them. So like this works for me to be able to display the books that I love. And I'm like, most of my books downstairs, I've read lots, but a lot of them I have not read. So I need to be able to find them.
Right. No, those are two different piles. Your TBR pile is not your bookshelf. So,
I made a whole new bookshelf in my room, one of those like rotating bookshelves.
oh, fancy.
That is where my TBR lives now. But I'm like, I have to keep bringing books up from the actual proper library. Uh, I always think I can read more than I have time to read. I'm sure everyone is going to
I'm
be
sure
like
you do, don't you? I feel like you do.
that. I mean, I read every night, so every single day, but it's still like there's so many books that come out that I want to read. And yeah, I
It's
finished one
a
book and
great
add
thought.
five. All right. So before we end our interview, can you tell us maybe like a hint about what your next book is that you're planning?
I can give you way more than a hint. Oh my goodness, next year's going to be so fun. It's a new series,
Okay.
obviously. New title out, so we're going on to a new. Um, it's called the Mrs. Kelly Mystery Series. She's our new main character. It's 1882.
Okay.
Okay. And have you seen Miss Scarlet and the Duke?
No, I haven't.
This Girl and the Duke, just check out the trailer. It's that vibe in exactly, but we're setting it in San Francisco. So it's San Francisco, 1882, a little more Wild West actually than the Idlewild series is. Um, but it's fantastic because I get to explore old San Francisco with my
Yeah.
main character. So the research is, oh, been so much fun. So the first three books are going to be released next year.
Okay.
Um, the first one's called Shadows Over Chinatown. We're going to touch in what Chinatown was all about in 1882 at the time, what was going on. And then we're going to take you to the North Shore and Fisherman's Wharf in the second book. And the third book is Palace Hotel. So I'm just having the best time exploring this with my main character. She gets imported from Minnesota as a mail order bride. In
Okay.
so she's going to show up. Her fiance is not entirely as advertised, and he's murdered on their wedding night.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Just heads up, she's going to discover a whole trail of secrets that he leaves behind, and
Okay.
that leads the crime that ties back into Chinatown. So we're going to show up with her. We're going to check out this place, figure it out, follow that mystery. Um, and I'm just having a blast with it right now. So
That's
that's
so
what
fun.
I'm
You
doing
like
right
able to like make trips to visit certain areas that you're putting in your books, or I feel
now.
like
The earthquake just destroyed so much of old San Francisco. The
Mhm.
1906 earthquake hasn't happened yet, so I'm relying a lot on old maps,
Okay.
old, paperwork that wasn't destroyed in the fires, and newspapers, and a lot of that sort of research. I can't actually just go down there and walk the streets and oh, here we are. It's different.
Yep.
Um, but it's but totally possible, obviously. And I'll just leave one hint for my readers. If you already read my series, the Idlewild Mystery Series, the new series is actually the backstory to one of the side characters.
Oh, I love it.
If you know, you know, and if you don't, talk to me later. Uh,
Yeah.
I'll tell you I'll tell you who it is, but that's where I went.
Well, hopefully your existing readers will enjoy this interview, and then people who are new to you, obviously they can pick up the first book in the series at no cost as part of the book club this month. Uh,
Mhm.
so exciting! Um, well, thank you so much for talking with me today. And again, you can grab book one in the series by going to thecozymysterybookclub.com. and we will see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.